Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in, being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. Let's first talk about with the President Trump being indicted. There are the president, former president, and the Manhattan DA are preparing for an indictment to be made this week as early as tomorrow. We're going to talk about the implications of that. Also, we're going to be checking in with our sister, Dr. Bridget Williams, MD, for Reclaim Your Wellness, another installment of the Reclaim Your Wellness segment, as we talk about some of the snacks that we come to love and how they may actually be toxic. Yeah, we're going to have that. And plus, today is International Day of Happiness. This is something that was started by the UN 10 years ago, and we're now talking about where we are and how happy we are in the world. We'll have that conversation. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. First and foremost, thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. First, I got to say big shout out to my sister, Suzette Speaks, holding it down for us on Thursday and Friday of last week, where she brought thousands of people to the conversation. So big shout out to my sister, Suzette. I thank my sister, Corinna Denise, culture crew member, holding it down on Friday. Our very special guest, LaDon Black, who is doing our work and great work of the expert, talking about relationships. And of course, my brother, brother Michael and Hotep, contributor, as they talked about it, had a fantastic conversation about that big issue of reparations last week. But Suzette, thank you. Truly grateful. And I appreciate you. Make sure y'all check her out at Suzette Speaks on her YouTube page, folks. And she's doing phenomenal work on that space as well. So big shout out to Suzanne. Again, thank you so much for holding it down here on the culture. All right, folks, let's jump right in. Let's talk about what's expected to happen this week. A big announcement is expected coming from the Manhattan DA's office, as the Manhattan DA, Mr. Alvin Bragg, is looking to possibly prepare charges against former President Donald Trump. More importantly, charges that stem from his payment to porn star Stormy Daniels and more. Let's talk a little bit about this. Now, President Donald Trump put out a tweet on over the weekend saying that he's expected to be arrested as early as Tuesday. Now, his team kind of tried to clear up the whole situation, saying, well, the president wanted to talk about the injustices of the system. Okay. But the president, former president, has asked for his supporters to take action and to protest. Now, in the city of New York, where Mr. Bragg, the Manhattan DA, is operating from, they have already taken major security measures, put in some big security measures in place, just in case there is an announcement of an indictment, just in case there is something that may spark. But also, the law enforcement officials are taking a look at the chatter online, on various spaces online, to see what's happening. And there seems to be more and more chatter around this protest. But let's talk about how the former president and the Manhattan DA's office is preparing for possibly in charging President Donald Trump in this latest controversy. I'm going to bring my brother, Dr. Jason Nichols, who serves as a lecturer from the University of Maryland, the School of African Americans, the Department of African American Studies. So I'm gonna bring him in. Brother Jason, good afternoon, sir. How are you, my brother?
Good afternoon to you. It's funny you mentioned LaDon Black. That's a name that takes me back, man.
I had to bring him back, bro.
I'm glad you did.
She was already there, though. But I got to bring her on, man. She's one of the dopest relationship specialists I've ever heard on radio, on TV. Hands down, sure. One of the dopest.
For sure. And again, it brings me back because, where we're from, you know what I'm saying? So it's always good to see you holding down the home, even though you're all the way over there.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Hey, bro, let's talk about President Trump and this whole situation. The president said that he's expected to be arrested Tuesday. Okay, if that's how it goes, I didn't know that you had an appointment to be arrested. I didn't know that's how they work now for for the justice system, bro.
Well, you know, honestly, it does kind of work that way for wealthy people because, you know, you've never heard somebody in the hood say they're negotiating the terms of their, you know, of their surrender. Usually somebody comes and kicks in a door, but that's the two-tier justice system that we have. But former President Donald Trump had no inside information. He's putting this up to kind of rile up his base. He expects to be indicted on many different charges in many different places. So he's trying to get people fired up. The truth is, the grand jury process isn't even done. You know, they still have new witnesses, and then they're bringing in, you know, people to rebut witnesses and all that kind of stuff. So this idea that he's like, yeah, it's happening Tuesday is ridiculous. It just caused a big firestorm. But again, you got to think about what's going on right now. He, in a couple of places, he was tied in the polls, virtually tied with Ron DeSantis. And this pulls him ahead. And I think it will help him ultimately if he is indicted. It will help him ultimately in the Republican primary. It will pull him ahead of any potential rivals. Right now, it looks like Ron DeSantis is his primary rival. I wouldn't count out Glenn Youngkin. I think all of the others are kind of B-teamers. But I think this is what he needs to get people fired up, to get that 2016 energy. Nobody was coming to those rallies. His act was getting hackneyed. Nobody wanted to see that anymore. And now they're fired up again. And I think that's going to help him. The downside, though, is you've got Kevin McCarthy saying different things, and he's calling all relevant committees to investigate, you know, the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, which is ridiculous because no charges have come yet. And we don't know if they're ever coming. And also, in addition to that, you know, how can you say relevant committees when you don't have the indictment and you don't know what he's indicted for? So, I mean, it's just all absurd. It's pomp and circumstance. We shouldn't take it seriously, but there are political implications to it. And I think he's making a smart political move by making it seem like he's going to end up in handcuffs, which he could very well for one of these charges in one of these states.
So how does this? Let's kind of break this down a little bit, bro. Like the fact that he's in this position, he still is a contender. He considers himself a contender, a legitimate candidate for the president of the United States for the Republican Party. How does this all play out in the world of politics? Because right now it looks like it looks like a cluster. You know what I'm saying? Look, I was reading some pieces over the weekend. Stormy Daniels. Then they talked about some stuff they could possibly connect to some of his businesses with Trump Organization. There has been some talk about his children possibly being indicted and brought to some charges. I mean, it's just all over the place, like you said, bro. And then you're talking about, you know, he's pumping this up like the same way that we saw with the January 6th situation. Hey, join me at this rally. It's going to be wild. You know what I mean? It's like protest. So it's creating a situation where anything could really happen.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Cohen has made it clear. He's like, he coordinated in the Stormy Daniels case with Donald Trump, but he also said with Ivanka Trump, with Don Jr., with Jay Sekulow. He mentioned a whole litany of people in Trump world that he coordinated with in order to make this payment to Stormy Daniels. So again, I think there are lots of people that could be implicated in this beyond Donald Trump, but he did it at the direction of Donald Trump, according to Michael Cohen. But I think that's the least serious of all of these potential cases that Donald Trump is facing. Georgia is far more serious. Fonnie Willis's investigation is far more serious. And apparently they've gotten a mountain of evidence, and the grand jury is making it clear. They're like, this is going to be massive. You're going to see new things that you've never seen. You're going to hear names you've never heard. This is like where I think it's going to get really serious. And as we stated last week, the Georgia folks are nervous about that. The Georgia Republicans are nervous about the fact that there is a there. We already heard one phone call. Apparently, there's at least one other. There may be two. One with a deceased legislator in Georgia, and there's allegedly another phone call out there. So I think, again, that's probably the most serious. And then you've got the documents case, which Jack, I'm forgetting his name right now, but the special counsel doesn't seem to be playing games either. He's calling everybody, and there could be a very serious thing happening in that situation as well. So Donald Trump has a lot of legal issues that he's facing.
Absolutely.
And he also has civil cases that he's facing, which won't be a problem for him because he'll raise money off of the fact that, oh, I'm a big victim. But, the E. Jean Carroll case where they're saying that, he may have sexually assaulted her, just the judge saying it's more likely than not, which is the burden in civil court. It's more likely than not that you sexually assaulted this woman, should bring him down, but it's going to pump him up with his base, but it's going to hurt him if he makes it to a general election. He won't win.
Wow. Look, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Jason Nichols and, of course, with you, crew. I want to hear from y'all loud and clear. Give me your thoughts on this. I know that truth is power. You got something to say. Also, courage before dishonor. You got something to say. We'll share those thoughts with folks. And folks, stay with us. We still got a lot more as we talk about this situation of former President Donald Trump and the Manhattan DA and how there could be some charges brought against the president. All right, stay with us. That conversation continues here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about former President Donald Trump will be facing some charges, some say as early as tomorrow, by the Manhattan DA, District Attorney, Mr. Alvin Bragg, who has been looking at the president, the former president, on his affairs, everything relating to his payment to the porn star Stormy Daniels, to other issues relating to the president's business affairs. And this has created a storm of concern for a lot of people, especially those on the other side of the aisle, the Republicans, as they're trying to figure out the best way to move forward. Now, I want to bring in my brother, Dr. Jason Nichols, because, Doc, one of the big things that I was reading about is that there's some pressure inside the GOP to force Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida to say something, that he's getting pressured to say something, right, to try to possibly knock Donald Trump out of the box of consideration for to run in the 2024 election. And so, what make of that? Do you think DeSantis is going to take that step? And if so, what would you see as being the implications of that?
So DeSantis did make a comment, which I thought was actually the first time that he showed a little bit of chutzpah. He showed some guts. So the first time, he said he threw a veiled jab, but it was like, I actually liked it. It was the first time he actually showed some spine and some backbone. And he was like, I don't know what it's like to pay off a porn star that you had an affair with while your wife was pregnant or whatever he said. And he's like, I don't know. But so he seemed to defend Donald Trump, but also brought up the poor judgment of Donald Trump. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to help him. I think right now Donald Trump is in full victim mode, and we know that the angry MAGA faithful love when Donald Trump goes into victim mode, when he feels like he's a victim. Oh my God, woe is me. They're coming after me, so they're coming after you. And nobody's going after anybody, really. And, if you want to talk about, they did this. They had a little bit of it when they did the search warrant in Mar-a-Lago. Oh, look at them. They raided my house, which I'm like, that's not a raid. I know what a raid is. Ask Breonna Taylor's family what a raid is. That was not a raid. That was a search warrant. They came in khakis and polo shirts. That's not a raid. But he right now, with him possibly there being an image of him being arrested, I think that is something that is going to drive his base wild, and he's going to win, the Republican nomination, running away. He's already up. They say
you really think he's gonna win?
I think he's gonna win. 17 points right now. He just got bumped. It was relative, it was closer with DeSantis, and now he's already widening the gap. But I think, again, that sliver in the middle who can be swayed one way or the other and are not affiliated in a general election, there's no way this helps him. This hurts him.
Right,
and
but
people
here's the thing, though, Doc. Hey, bro, I don't understand the thinking. Like, if this is. I can see if, and I guess depending on who you are, I can see if you said, "Oh, this is Nancy Pelosi and a group of Democrats coming after him," right? Because you feel like, "Oh, okay, that's just based on some bad blood." This is legitimately a prosecutor. This is a federal prosecutor. This is you're talking about law and order. You're talking about breaking laws. This is not politics. This is talking about criminal behavior. And so, I'm not doubting the numbers you pointed out. It's just that for me, that he had an affair. That he's shady and grimy when it comes to his business affairs. And yet you get a bump. That speaks volumes, brother Jason, about where we are in this country, that you could be a full-blown criminal. Let me put some context in this. A full-blown white privilege criminal. And you could still lead the pack to possibly be a presidential candidate. That is absolutely insane to me, bro. I can't wrap my mind around it.
Let me tell you, it's funny. Number one, the first argument they're going to make is, of course, that this is some sort of political prosecution, that Alvin Bragg is not law and order, that he's just some Democrat that wants to make it so that Donald Trump can't run. Now, the truth is, Democrats are praying that Donald Trump runs. They want Donald Trump to run. They don't want
I
to run
would
against
too.
like that's their best chance is actually not even against DeSantis, who like I said is smug and unpersonable and uncharismatic.
Right. But he's been a
but
governor though.
But he's been a governor. He's a governor of Florida, and Republicans seem to like him. He's young. I think he's actually got a better chance in a general election than Donald Trump. So Democrats want Donald Trump to win this thing. They absolutely want him to win. That's what gets them fired up. Donald Trump gets Democrats fired up the way Hillary Clinton got Republicans fired up in 2016. So I'll say one other thing. The other thing is Alvin Bragg is a black man. Fani Willis is a black woman. It's easy to say that it's political then. It's easy to say, oh, they're Democrat.
Or racial.
Or racial. And the other thing is that I want to just real quickly make this statement. You look at what Donald Trump is saying by go out and protest and, basically calling for them to basically start trouble and threaten people with what happened on January 6th. Imagine if Larry Hoover did that. He said, look, all the GDs and BDs and everybody in Chicago that's banging, go out until they free me. Or, if he would never do that. You know what I'm saying?
No. Hey, look, brother Jason, as soon as he said that, he would have been shut down.
Oh,
that's not happening. That's not happening.
You ain't
sending a damn tweet.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's not happening. All right. Let me go to the crew. Carriage before dishonor, you say, unless they can make it stick, do not arrest him. It will just make it easier for him to get back in the White House. So I agree with you. Most of the time, if the feds are coming after you, and I'm sure you know this, carriage before dishonor, they're going to find a way to make it stick. I mean, they're not going to, they're going to have a make sure that they have a very tight case against the situation. So I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I'm worried about, like Brother Jason said, carriage before dishonor, I'm worried about that little slim group of people who's still on the fence. Like now, that's the concern. I'm not worried about those who are with him or those who are against him. I'm worried. You still on the fence? Okay, then that's a whole different situation. Truth is power. You say Chris Rock tried to speak for us in the Wall Street Journal saying that it would be bad for Trump to be indicted. That slap must have done more to him than we see. Wow, it would be bad. Janae, you checked in and said, look, we thought we thought he wasn't going to win last time too because of his disgraceful behavior. That's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But again, he lost last time. You know what I mean? He won in 2016. But don't forget, he lost 2018 in terms of the midterms. He lost 2020, and then he lost in 2022 in terms of the midterms and him being leader of that party. So he's 1-3. I'll take those odds. I think, and he's trending downward. Like, I think, I'd rather see him, in a general than somebody who looks younger, somebody who is a governor of a big state, can say they have executive.
I see how you playing it, Brother Jason. I see how you playing it, bro. I see it. You say it. Younger man that could govern a state. A man that's fighting against being woke.
Yeah, like honestly, I don't.
That's real.
I don't like DeSantis. I think DeSantis is, and honestly, I think a young Joe Biden would have wiped the floor with DeSantis. I think where the country was, we would destroy DeSantis. But right now, I don't know. And I think Glenn Youngkin, like if he were to get in and to get some traction, I think Glenn Youngkin is a tough out. He's going to be really tough. So, and he's just as bad as DeSantis. So I personally, I think we're hoping for Trump. I think Trump is is our I think Joe Biden's going to win regardless, but I think Trump is his best chance. That's his best matchup.
Let me tell you,
we know how to beat Trump. We get fired up for Trump.
Hey, look, let me just tell you, I've never seen a man who's able to like bounce off of all of this stuff that's coming at him and still get to the highest office in the land, still get access to power, still be so influential. This dude is, I mean, man, the fall is going to be astonishing. It's going to be absolutely astonishing. Janelle, you checked in and said, let's just be honest, his indictment is not going to look like anything anyone is hoping for. Everyone is speculating what it's about, but we have no idea what the actual charges are going to be. And that's why, folks, tomorrow, of course, we're going to talk about it if they do make an announcement from the Manhattan DA's office about the indictment, the specific charges. But I'm telling you, if the Republican Party still puts their vote of confidence behind this man, and like the New York Republicans are doing right now, they're organizing to protest the indictments if come tomorrow. That's one of the big ones. If they're putting their vote of confidence behind this man and still try to push him forward to lead the pack for the big White House office, we got bigger problems than Trump in this country then.
Oh, I think we do have bigger problems.
We got bigger problems, and we in trouble. We in trouble.
Yeah,
if you're pumping up a criminal, if you're pumping up a misogynist, if you're pumping up a racist, if you're pumping up a bigot, if you're pumping up a man who don't give a damn about any of the systems that he is supposed to uphold, and you still feel like he's the best guy for the job, we got.
Think about, listen, in Long Island, New York, since we're talking about New York right now, they voted for a complete scam artist, you know what I'm saying, for Congress, sent him to Congress. The guy who hasn't told the truth, won't even tell the truth about his name, and that they sent him to Congress. So the idea that they're offended by lies and deceit and crime, and a guy who's wanted in another country, all of that, they sent that guy to Congress. So for me,
absolutely,
I do not doubt any of them. I do not doubt that they are willing to send Donald Trump, who we know is a criminal. We know all of these things. Bro, it's not a question.
Right.
This is honestly the least charged. And I agree with Janelle. This charge isn't really that serious. It's gonna be minor. If you're expecting Alvin Bragg to put, Donald Trump on the island and to be, with the orange jumpsuit and giving people $150s, it's not happening. Like, nope. he's gonna be in and out. This is gonna be like an hour-long processing, and then he'll never see the inside of a jail cell ever again. But Fani Willis, that's a much more serious case. That is far more serious.
We're going to see how this situation, because New York may dictate the agenda for Georgia. So we will certainly see. My brother, Dr. Jason Nichols, check him out. Doc, real quick, what's the name of your podcast and the work, and tell people how they can stay in touch with you?
Definitely check out the Working Class Elites podcast. You will see a familiar face, that guy right there, on the most recent episode, just dropped, I think today. So definitely check out the Working Class Elites podcast. Also, you can certainly follow me on any social media, Jason Nichols, PhD on Facebook, or you can catch me on Twitter at Dr. Jason Nichols. That's at DRJSONNICHOLS on Twitter. And let's talk. Let's rap.
There it is. My brother, Dr. Jason Nichols, checking in as always on Mondays. And make sure y'all continue to support him. All right, Doc, we'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you for checking in, being so good for the culture.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, it's going to give us a little health check. We're going to reclaim your wellness, and we're going to be checking in with Dr. Bridget Williams, MD, to talk about our favorite snacks might actually be toxic. Yeah, we'll have that conversation. And later on, it's International Day of Happiness. So we got a lot to get to the next hour. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture. Well, it's Monday, and we are continuing to have our conversations about health and wellness. And so it's time for us to reclaim your wellness with Dr. Bridget Williams, MD. All right, good afternoon, Doc. How are you?
Great. How are you today, Farajii?
I am good. All right. I'm not really looking forward to this conversation because I have a sweet tooth.
Oh, boy. Today's not your day. Today is not your day.
No, it's not. It's not my day. All right. So what's the latest around this situation about snacks? I'm seeing there seems to be this trend around the country about the banning of certain snacks?
Yes. So the state of California, there is a bill that would ban Skittles and other foods that are like Skittles that contain certain chemical toxins. And it's making its way into the California legislature. And this is important. Because people, as you said, they like their snacks, right? We have a lot of convenient foods in America, but not only is California looking at this, but there are a lot of foods in other countries that are made in the US that other countries will not even allow. And so why is it that European countries are saying, no, thank you, United States, but we're allowing our own people to eat some really, questionable food? So I want to talk about this so that we can make better decisions.
So when we're talking about this snack situation, let's go into a little bit more with these chemical toxins. First and foremost, Skittles has been around for, I would say, for at least 30 to 40 years, at least, right? So we're just finding out that this might be the situation, and even before then, we not only is it how long has this been in Skittles, but more importantly, why has the Mars, who is the producer of Skittles, why have they allowed this toxin to be a part of their foods?
Well, the problem is titanium dioxide, and it's been a little questionable how much of a toxin it actually is. Titanium dioxide, they try to make it as pure as possible, but having it in food, and the reason why you have it in certain snacks is to give it a really rich, opaque color. So think about some of your favorite snacks that are really potent with color, and you have to question whether it has this in it. And so even though they try to make it as pure as possible, even though they try to make it larger molecules instead of nanomolecules, which will actually make it less likely that you are absorbing them, it is still in a case where, European countries are banning this despite that. It's been there for all this time. So anything that's really rich in color, you need to be concerned about. The problem is that it causes inflammation and probably neurotoxicity. So the overall message right now is that we need more research behind this, but apparently California is looking at this as an issue. European countries, for a lot of these things, have already said no thank you. And I think we need to start making better decisions for ourselves. We can't necessarily depend on our government and the FDA to make the decisions for us. And I think we've done that as an American culture. We feel like we have all these amazing safeguards, but they're not always safe.
Now, that is a hard Skittle to swallow.
That is a hard one to swallow. Part of the problem is that we create these foods, right? Or snacks or beverages, and we've been groomed to associate certain colors with flavors, right? So you think, okay, you have a purple snack or pop or what have you, you're like, oh, it's great. You have orange, you're thinking it's orange, right? If it's red, you're thinking it's cherry or watermelon or strawberry. And we've been groomed to associate these really intense colors with the snacks and the flavors. But the fact of the matter is we don't necessarily need these to get the flavor that we're looking for. And so we need to really take a step back. So titanium oxide, it's still questionable, but this is what the California legislator is bringing up as far as Skittles and like snacks. And we need to make sure, with this possible inflammation and neurotoxicity, is it also carcinogenic is the question. And so we need to take this seriously. But let me bring up what other things would have titanium, things that you wouldn't necessarily think about. Milk has titanium oxide. Coffee creamer, salad dressing, not just, I'm sorry, my dog is here. So
it's all good. He's feeling the same way.
I'm thinking because there's a lot of that colors in the dog food too, right? So we have to take that into consideration. Wow. So sauces and chewing gums, anything that's really intense in color, we need to look at the label and decide if that's what you want to have in your food.
So basically, this is going beyond just your natural, just your common food coloring. This is a way for, in this case, Mars Company, to try to make us believe that a color is associated with a flavor, and it's. I mean, is it that? Am I looking at this the right way?
I wouldn't put all. I think we've done that as a culture, and we've done that over time. I don't want to put all of that on the Mars Company because many foods contain heavy coloring. Like I said, milk is really white for a reason, and some of these other things that we put this in there for some of these strong, intense colors. But we have to decide: is this what we want in our diets? And a couple months ago, I saw another article that also had 10 foods that were banned in Europe that we have all the time. And I had to look in my own pantry and look to see, are those foods in my pantry as well? Because I like to think I eat pretty healthy, but there are things that I just wasn't aware of that are worth discussing as well. Wow.
Talk to us about how this latest revelation actually is still kind of a work in progress, because there isn't any recent report to show that the consumption of titanium dioxide over a long period of time is harmful. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, what you're seeing is it's questionable. So there have been some studies that definitely say that if you have these in your food, that the FDA has said it is generally considered as safe, but other organizations, the European Food Safety Authority, has concluded that it is not safe as a food additive, and it can cause inflammation and neurotoxicity, and that basically overall there's more research that needs to happen.
So and we got to take a quick pause in a few moments, but I'm just wondering, like, for me, it seems like this is a situation that affects all Americans. You know, there's one thing you could say, like we talked about last week, talking about how certain chemicals marketed to Black women, but this affects all of America, right? So it's almost like, and I don't want to use this word, so I'm gonna use it lightly. It's criminal that a food company, a major food company, major food distributor, knowingly adds this stuff, knowing that they could potentially cause some serious harm and risk to consumers, and allows it to still happen.
Yeah, you would think that the company themselves, after gaining knowledge, would be the one to pull some of this, but this is across the board. Companies need to stay competitive. Consumers are attracted to color and smell and packaging. And so if we can't trust the government or the industries that are supposed to protect us, we need to do that work for ourselves. So there are a lot of foods. There's a list of ones that I want to go through. I want people at home to be looking through their pantry as we go through this list. And so just so that you're more aware, because what I'm really challenging people to do, as well as myself, is to eat a little bit more natural and a little bit more fresh and healthy.
All right, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's go through that list, Doc. And I would love to hear it. And folks, I'm sure that you would love to hear it as well. Join us in a conversation as we have our new segment, Reclaiming Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget Williams, MD, and share your thoughts and your questions with Dr. Bridget, so we can talk about how we can get into a healthier space. Post your comments in the chat on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course, we're streaming live on Black Star Network and Amazon News. Stay with us, folks. We got a lot to talk about with the doc here on the culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We are talking about reclaiming your wellness with my sister, Dr. Bridget Williams, MD. And we're talking about toxic snacks, folks, where there's new research to show that some of your favorite snacks like Skittles and other snacks might include a toxic chemical by the name of titanium dioxide. And that titanium dioxide may cause some serious health issues for you as a consumer. Let's bring Dr. Williams back into the conversation. Doc, so this snacking thing, it may not work out for us. Now, I want us to get to the suggestions, recommendations that you have on what we can do to possibly purge our pantries of these chemical toxins.
Well, I'll tell you one of the foods, just going back to the titanium for a second, that I find kids are obsessed with, I see adults obsessed with as well, are the Takis.
Oh
chips.
My gosh, Doc. Whoo!
I know I'm going to hurt some feelings with that one, but look at the color. Look at the color. I mean, what, you don't have it with you, do you? No.
No, I don't eat Takis. No, but let me tell you something. That is, I don't like to put it in this term, but I see a lot of black children eating Takis, man. And I'm talking about early in the morning, like walking to school eating Takis. And then I see the big bags in the stores of Takis, and I'm like, what the hell is this stuff? Like it's like a mashup between like hot Doritos and Cheetos and then some other color. It's like, what the hell is this?
I mean, when you think about how cancer increases in this country, how our health and how our wellness depletes in this country, look at what you're eating. And I agree with you. I see so many children eating, whether it's Takis or a lot of these foods, and that's anything that comes in a bag, bigger than your head, is not meant for you to eat, particularly by yourself. So then that goes back to serving size and what have you, right? And so if you're going to have a snack, buy it in the snack size. Have a one serving and be done with it, is the way that I look at it. Because when you buy the bag that's bigger than your head, 9 times out of 10, you're eating more than what you should be eating.
All right, so the first recommendation is don't buy the bag bigger than your head.
Yes. Absolutely. Because I mean that it's all groomed to make you want to eat more. But let's get into some of these other, if you're looking at your pantry, you're writing down some notes. Some of these are going to be obvious to you, and some of them are going to be a little bit unexpected. And like I said, I had to look at my own pantry to decide what was in there as well. So the first ones is Mountain Dew and Fresca. So these drinks have brominated vegetable oil in it. It can cause irritation to your skin and your mucous membranes, meaning your nose, mouth, lungs, and stomach. A lot of people drink Fresca thinking that they're drinking a healthier, more less sugary form of a drink. You have to look at that. And in actuality, it might be causing more irritation than you expected. If you look at talking about kids again, what do parents put in their kids' lunches? Those Little Debbie Swiss rolls. The color in that alone have been, like I said, these are banned in European countries. So the color dyes in that alone cause issues for the very young infants and young children. Though there's no such warning required here, Norway and Austria banned the chocolate treats entirely. So take a look at that and decide, there are things that we can make that don't take that much time and taste a whole lot better than what you're finding there. Another one is your breakfast cereals, your Frosted Flakes, your Honey Bunches of Oats, your Rice Krispies have something called BHT, butylated hydroxytoluene, and it is a chemical used for preservatives. It is actually something that has medicinal value. People use it to treat cold sores, genital herpes, and AIDS. But long term, there's an up and a down to many things, right? but long-term exposure to it, it's toxic, they find in mice and in rats, causes liver, thyroid, kidney problems, lung function, blood clots, and has the potential to create tumors as well. So we have to look at that. For some people, they use stove top stuffing. Also has the BHT in it, along with another toxin, and has found to cause cancer in mice and rats and hamsters as well. And again, these are not allowed. You will not go overseas and find these foods, but yet you are at home and you can buy them readily. Another one.
I got a question. I got a question from one of our crew members.
Mm-hmm.
My guy, Truth is Power, he checked in. He said, to ask if potassium bromate, an oxidizing agent that was banned in 1990 by the EU and also found in citrus sodas and drinks in the US, how did it start up again?
Yeah, it has started, and I think the research behind it was not as strong as they would like, but I still question it quite a bit myself.
So it's harmful, but there's just not enough research to justify how harmful it is.
And that's the question. How much are we in? See, there's a fine line between how much is in the product, how much are we actually absorbing of the toxin, and how much research have they found to it for it to actually be toxic. And this is where we draw a fine line. Many of the things that we find in our processed foods, it doesn't mean they're still in there because the percentage that they find of causing cancer isn't high enough to take that chemical off the market. But
wouldn't it accumulate though over time though?
I think they look at average consumption. And so they look at the chemical, the amount that people intake, and the possibility of cancer. And if the numbers don't add up to a certain level that they consider it now carcinogenic and possibly doing harm to a certain number of people in the public, it stays in there. And so you have to decide, do you want to take that risk?
No, that's a big one. That's a big risk. You stepping on some toes once you started talking about Frosted Flakes possibly being harmful. My man Damon Brissett, my brother, said, "Not my Frosted Flakes."
I know. We have to leave the fact that Frosted Flakes, what have you. We look at Honey Bunch of Oats, Rice Krispies. Rice Krispies is considered one of the healthier options, right? And so, we really have to look at what are we taking in, and do we want to take that possibility?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doc.
Well, I was going to say, and one thing that hit me hard, and I'm still struggling with, is Ritz crackers.
What's going on with Ritz crackers?
The trans fats are off the charts, and the likelihood of it raising your cholesterol levels and lowering your good cholesterol levels is not worth the risk. And apparently not something that they're looking to have in other countries. And then the final one that kind of hurt my feelings. This was my mini treat. Drumstick frozen
drumstick mini the mini cone joints. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of got my feelings hurt on that one. And basically what they're finding is that though it might be derived from seaweed and helps improve the texture of the ice cream itself, it leads to intestinal inflammation in rodents and upsets the flora of your stomach. Is it worth it? I know.
Damn.
And so the question is, can we eat healthier? Can we eat more naturally? Can we use more natural food colorings? Can we avoid some of these chemicals? And how hard do we have to work to do it? And should our government be protecting us?
All right, look, we got to take a quick pause. I got, every time I talk to you, we got to take a few extra minutes because you dropped too many jewels for us to kind of take it in 30 minutes. But look, I have to ask this question because as we're looking at all of these things on that side of things, what some people would deem as unhealthy foods, even if we cross over to the other side, there is another challenge that's similar that we have to address. And I want to bring it to your attention to get your take on it. Folks, stay with us. We've been talking to Dr. Bridget, MD, as we're talking about reclaiming your wellness here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Stay right with us.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to Dr. Bridget Williams, MD, as we talk about Reclaim Your Wellness. And Dr. Bridget is breaking it down and breaking our hearts at the same time, talking about toxic snacks.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what I'm really challenging people to do is science provides some amazing options for us. But I think we just need to be a little bit more careful when we're deciding to take some of these things in, that there's a lot that we can still do on our own, that if something can stay on your shelf for a year, what's in it? And we need to, instead of accepting that, we need to question that. And that a lot of the snacks that we can be taking in, that it can be a lot more naturally created. You can, I don't want to get totally off, but some of the microwave popcorns, right? And what needs to be in there for it to pop in the bag. You can get a pot and you can get some butter and you can make popcorn right on the stove. Your parents did it.
Right.
We need to look at some of these conveniences and what are we trading for the convenience?
So here's the thing, because on the flip side, this is the point I wanted to kind of get your take on. On the flip side, we're also seeing that in our quest and pursuit, and especially in a time where there are so many dietary needs, right? From everything from veganism, vegetarianism, gluten-free, being to combat celiac disease, being lactose intolerant, and people just really wanting to eat healthier, that some of these same companies that have been producing these foods that include these toxic chemicals are now in the business of producing all natural, homemade, original, grain type foods, right?
Yeah.
And so the industry in terms of organic foods, all natural foods is booming right now, right? And so many of us, if we don't have these conversations like we're having today, don't know that a company that produced the Skittles might produce an all-natural alternative, but they might use the same practices. They might cut back, they might take out one ingredient and add something else just in their quest to get certain things on the shelves. So talk to us about that, because that's happening on the health food side, that we're seeing all of these companies. I remember I was vegetarian for years, Doc, years. And then I became a vegan. Right. And I was a vegan for like maybe 2.5 years. I felt like there was nothing on the shelf. Now it's like, oh, veganism. Oh, you're vegan and gluten free. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you suffer from celiac, these things are popping up left and right. Whereas 5 years ago, you couldn't find anything. Now I'm concerned now that we might be seeing a shift in the culture. And it's not a good shift, that now we're forcing companies to produce these foods that may not be in the best interest, but their marketing, their packaging, everything else speaks to all natural, organic. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. So we need to really look at, you're right, there's a marketing angle to this. The green industry, and that means the vegan, the vegetarian, the all natural is a humongous booming industry right now. And best believe the same companies that are making, the kind of artificial like foods are also buying into the natural side as well. Of course they are, right? But the concern is that many times the marketing is misleading. A lot of these vegan and vegetarian foods are heavy in carbs and sugars that are hidden, right? And so you have to, just because you see natural or vegan or vegetarian or what have you, you still need to look at what is in that. And does that still meet what I'm looking for, right? And so we can't just assume that when we see certain buzzwords that it is still what we should be eating. Actually my cousin is a huge raw food specialist, and she goes back to the natural earth. She grows a lot herself. She takes the foods that are meant for our body. And I don't think it's a bad idea. The problem is we have, a busy, intense world. And so it becomes difficult for people to do some of these things. But I don't think it's impossible to create meals, to have snacks, to drink drinks that are still good for your body. And most of these things that we're talking about in low consumption is not an issue. The problem is when it's that coffee creamer, which is your daily consumption, that's when it becomes an issue. When you add this in to, having high trans fats, and you're not exercising, and the other aspects of the things that you're eating are not healthy as well. Now the coffee creamer has much more of an issue in your diet than if you were active and exercising and eating healthy in other ways. We have to protect ourselves. No one can really do that for you. The FDA is not going to do that for you. And so we have to look at the options that are out there, look at the convenience options that are out there, and decide, can you, on the run, it's a lot easier to stop at, let's say, McDonald's for fast food than it is to go into Trader Joe's or grocery store and get something that you can actually just kind of, something natural, a salad, what have you, that you can pick off the shelf. But you can do it.
And look, and I agree with you. It is funny because I remember watching a documentary. I can't remember the name right now, but they were saying, for a salad, it's a salad, it speaks for itself. But then once you add the salad dressing, then it becomes from this low calorie diet to this very high calorie, full of sugar and salt. And it's like, damn,
Absolutely.
All for dressing. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So it's one of the things that I've been seeing too is, like you mentioned, the time, but the price point. A lot of times, especially for Black folks in this country, the price point is a huge part. The reason we see Black children eating Takis in the morning is because, they may wanted that, but they may not have. The parents may not have bought breakfast options because the price point, the food desert. I mean, this is all interrelated. If you don't have access to healthy foods, then you're not going to eat healthy. It's just very simple. So I think that's the other part. Then let's talk about the fact that I remember hearing somebody say, especially for clean eating, that if you can't find ingredients to those packaged goods in your pantry, then you shouldn't eat it.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I always
absolutely.
was like, I always said to myself, well, damn, I don't think I got to take like 95% of the food out of the pantry.
And this is not something, and so when I'm talking to, our audience here, you don't do this all in one day. This is not something that it's nearly impossible to go from, American cultural eating to something that's a lot healthier. It's even like with the salad, with my patients, I learned over time that if I had my high blood pressure, my cholesterol patients, I would say, well, what's your diet? What did you have for lunch? What are you eating? They would say salad. I'm like, oh, that's great. Until I started saying, take a picture of it. And I would see, I'd expected, a salad with lettuce and tomato, and I would see a salad that was nearly white. covered in dressing, or a salad that was nearly just orange because it was mainly cheese. And so I realized that we're not always speaking the same language when we're talking about wellness. So I no longer say, what are you eating? I say, show me a picture of what you're eating, because we're not always talking the same thing. But this isn't something you change overnight. These are small changes, and you have to change your palate. You have to change how your body is responding to these chemicals. And it takes, just like anything else, it takes a little bit of time. So you might start eating more salads, and then you learn to use less dressing, and then you learn to use lighter dressings. But it doesn't, because you have to if you go from that rich ranch and heavy and all that to looking like basically something a rabbit is eating, you're not going to be happy. But you can do it little by little and change your palate, so you're not as accustomed to those heavy, fat, rich foods that are necessarily not good for you. And now not only are they not good for you, they have toxins in them as well that only add to the problem. I actually encourage people, we had a moment where, no one was using butter. It was all about the margarine and the fake oils, and use natural oils. I think there was a viewer that was asking about artificial sweeteners. I used to have all the I used to have artificial salt, growing up during that's what we had, because we were afraid of what we thought we were being told that these natural things were causing. You're better off using, honestly, a small amount of butter than using a bunch of chemicals that are in some of the margarines. You're better off using natural sugar and using a little bit less of it, and then adding in other aspects that can sweeten things, natural sweeteners, as opposed to using artificial sweeteners. Change your palate, what your expectations are. It takes about 3 weeks or so to make those adjustments, and then you'll find what you used to eat, you won't even like that anymore. But only you can do that.
And really quickly, as we wrap up, one of our crew members talked about the importance of regular detoxing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So, what does that mean? Does that mean, I think, I forgot which brother it was, but they talked about drinking ginger, taking in turmeric. What is the detoxing? What would you recommend in that for that?
Well, there's a lot of these out there, and they're different detoxes for different reasons. So you have to kind of figure out what you're looking for. There's some that are more of clearing out your liver, which is basically filtering everything that's going through your body, which I think is a great idea. There's some that are actually more about detoxing and actually clearing out your palate and what your expectations are as far as your food and sugars and what have you. I think it's, years ago, I thought, what is the point of this? Now I think it's a great thing that we all should do at some point or another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Bridget, you keep dropping jewels, sis. We're going to have to keep bringing you back.
I appreciate it.
I truly appreciate it. Dr. Bridget Williams, MD. Make sure y'all tune in every week, folks, on our new segment, Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget Williams, MD. Doc, how can folks get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So keep in mind, it's still March. It's still Colon Cancer Awareness Month. 20% of African Americans were likely to get colon cancer. Think about some of the things that we talked about today. 40% are more likely to die. Make your appointment. Get your colonoscopy. Save your life or family members. If you have questions, if you would like to submit questions or topics for the show, email me at info@drbridgetmd.com.
There it is, Dr. Bridget. And let me tell y'all, folks, she for real, for real. She is a real doctor. I know some people like, well, who is she? She is a clinically based clinical doctor. She's been doing family medicine for years. She has her certificates and all of her degrees in the space of cannabis as well. And she covers the gamut. She covers the gamut. So Dr. Bridget is our health voice here on The Culture. And we are certainly grateful that she's able to join us every week. Dr. Bridget, thank you so much for teaching us on how to reclaim our wellness here on The Culture.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll see you next week.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about International Day of happiness. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. In the final few minutes of the show, I wanted to talk about what today is, and it is International Day of Happiness. Have you heard of this? This is something that the United Nations has started, and it was started 10 years ago in an attempt to talk about the importance and value of seeking ways to find your happiness. Now, of course, coming from the United Nations, it talks about it from the standpoint of countries. How is countries working to make sure that their citizens are happy? Let me share this with you, talking about what's going on and with this latest, with today's celebration from the UN. Take a look at here. The United States, they set up this International Day of Happiness as a way to recognize the importance of happiness in the lives of people around the world. Now, this is per a statement coming from the UN. The 10th Annual World Happiness Report, folks, take a look, published today to coincide with the International Day of Happiness, surveyed over 100,000 people and found that Finland was the happiest country for the 6th straight year. The US was ranked the 15th happiest country. The World Happiness Report research examines 6 key factors arising from self-reported levels of happiness across the world, coming from, and here are the metrics: social support, income, health, freedom, generosity, and absence of corruption. Now, this is an analysis the report states governments are increasingly using to, quote, orient policies towards happiness. The undoubted pains the world faced over the pandemic were offset by increases in the extent to which respondents have been able to discover and share the capacity to care for each other in difficult times, according to the report. Because here's the thing, folks, about this happiness report. They found that more people were happy during the years of the pandemic from 2020 to 2022, that they found that most people were actually happy. And do you know why? This is interesting. Because there was more sense of generosity. People were genuinely caring. Now, even though the pandemic, unfortunately, took millions of people's lives across the globe, people felt happier. Are you surprised by this? I want you to share your thoughts on this, folks. The fact of where we are in our happiness. Are you surprised that Finland is number 1 and the United States is number 15? Are you surprised by the fact that if we're in a time when when the world seemed to have stopped, that people have become a little bit happier? And here's my take on this, and I want y'all to share your thoughts as well. So post your comments on Facebook and YouTube. Here's my take on why I think this is happening. Because it gave us a moment to rest. During the pandemic, y'all remember, and look, check this out. Y'all know, like, this month marks the 3rd year. It's been 3 years since the pandemic started around COVID. 3 years. I want us to just take a quick moment to really think about what has happened since COVID started in March of 2020. And I'm using that, because I remember being in Baltimore. Things started to shut down around like the middle of the month. So around this time, you started to see schools starting to shut down and businesses, and everything started to shut down around just like this time. 3 years ago today, or 3 years ago, this past week, things started to really shut down. And there was this great uncertainty. There was this feeling like some people thought it was going to be the end of the world. There was this moment where we didn't have to rely on the things that were outside of us. The greatest things that we had to rely on were the things that were on the inside of us. And even though, people's lives were taken as a result of COVID, even though we saw that there was a huge shift, there was a sense of peace. There was a sense of calm. We didn't rush to get back into the rat race, right? And I think that a lot of us, and y'all tell me if this happened to you, I think for me, it gave me a moment of reflection, a moment of clarity, where I could think about what's really important, right? Time away from, if you felt like you were spending too much time away from your family, you had a chance to reconnect. If you felt like you didn't think enough about the health and well-being of your personal life, you had a chance to do that. Happiness. There was a sense of, being more faithful, understanding that, there are certain things that you don't control. So, you might as well put your faith in something, right? Or someone. But it's an interesting thing that, according to this World Happiness Report, that we became a little bit happier during a time of great tragedy and a moment of time where the world seemed to have stopped. I think that's absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So, I want to get your take on where do y'all see with this thing around happiness, because I feel like we don't talk about it enough, or the way we do talk about it is just in a very, very superficial way. Here's one of the things that I often hear, and y'all may hear this, among your family and friends as well. People talk about what do they want out of life. And people say, I just want to be happy. What does that actually mean? You know what I mean? Like, what does being happy mean? Does that mean that you're going to have a better job? Does that mean you're going to get into a more fulfilling relationship? Does that mean, what does that mean for you? And I think that we are at a point in this country, and we're just at a point in our evolution as human beings for us to be very, very specific about what it is that we want out of this journey called life. More importantly, is it possible for us to still be happy even though we go through the life's vicissitudes, the trials of life, the ups and downs of life? Can you still remain happy? Just some things for us to think about. Just some things for us to think about. Conscious Thought, you checked in and said, look, I am surprised that the U.S. rated as high as 15th on the happiness index scale. Right. I was a little surprised. Hey, Conscious Thought, I was a little surprised too. One of the countries that ranked really at the bottom according to happiness report was Afghanistan. It was it's at number 137 in terms of the happiest countries in the world, Afghanistan. And I understand why it might not be the happiest place to be right now. Elizabeth Sim, you said, I agree. That was one benefit. People do need rest, peace, and insight. Yes, Elizabeth, you are absolutely correct. I think that is one of the big things that we often overlook. And if you were I don't know if anybody else felt this, but when things started to reopen, and whether it's your business or people started to do things, like things started to reopen, I wasn't in a rush to do it. Did you feel the same way? Crew, did y'all feel the same? I wasn't in a rush. Like, there was something like very therapeutic about being in that space. Again, it was a lot that was happening. But as stuff started to ease up, I wasn't necessarily in a rush. It was like you didn't have to think about the day-to-day as much as you think about the day-to-day now. The sense of time changed, right? Like when we were in lockdown mode, the sense of time had changed. So you didn't wake up with this sense of like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I got this pressure, I got this pressure. We didn't have the Sunday scaries and all of that stuff, right? We really just woke up and you felt a little bit lighter. You knew that you were going to, have a good day, and you were very intentional about how you were going to have your day. So it's very, very interesting. Great point. Willie, you checked in and said, look, I'm not surprised at all being able to not worry about healthcare, food, housing for the people of Finland, Sweden, etc., where the people are mostly one race and don't mind doing for each other. Right. Absolutely. So you didn't have all of that. And Young Sikh, you checked in and said, big factor in Nordic countries is homogeneous demographics. This will prevent caring in a country like ours. During our pandemic, we have themes of racism, political divide, violence, death, etc. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a great point, Willie. That's a great point, Young Sikh, that when you have all of this diversity, happiness has to be worked at. It just doesn't come naturally. You have to be intentional on being at a place of peace and happiness with someone that doesn't look like you, or doesn't come from the same place that you come from, or don't have the same experiences that you have. You have to be intentional in building that relationship. So I thought this was interesting that we're seeing this now, that today is an International Day of Happiness. And as you go through the day, or as you have been going through your day, really, really think about what has brought you the most happiness, and how do you take that and amplify that, so that way over these next few days, over the next couple of weeks, over these next couple of months, you have a reference point on how to find your peace, how to find your joy. And guess what, folks? Let me just give you a little insight. It doesn't come from something outside of yourself or someone outside of yourself. It starts from within. After the pandemic, at first it was jolting, it was shocking, it was a lot to take in. We were trying to figure it all out. But then as the months and as the weeks and the months went by, we started to find a sense of calm. The calm first started within ourselves. We made an intentional decision to be at peace during that time. So just wanted to put that out there. So happy International Day of Happiness to you and to all of the crew. And, check out the report from the UN and see how they have measured happiness, and most importantly, how we can continue to spread happiness and love, especially now in this country. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank you for tuning in. I want to thank my team. I want to thank Joel King-Keenan, my control room. I want to thank our very special voices, Dr. Bridget Williams and my brother, Dr. Jason Nichols. And of course, I want to thank you, my culture crew, for tuning in. Thank you for your continued support of the culture over these past couple of days. Thank you for showing so much love to my sister, Suzette Speaks, as she hosts it. And thank you for your continued support of us here at the Black Star Network. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. Support us. Continue to build with us as we're continuing to build up this network, take things to the next level. We are a Black-owned digital media company that is on the precipice of creating a digital media movement, and we need your support. So go to blackstarnetwork.com. Follow us on all social media platforms. And, of course, follow yours truly, me, Farajii Muhammad. You can find me at The Real Farajii on Twitter, on Instagram, and at Farajii on Twitter. And I love to build with you. All right, stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered with my man, Brother Roland Martin. And as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process, God willing. You will see another fantastic show tomorrow right here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Have a safe and peaceful week, peaceful evening, and look forward to reconnecting with you soon. Peace.